One of the most horrifying stories in the entirety of Prey has to be that of Luka Golukin. You see, Luka was originally one of the hundreds of Russian convicts in the Talos 1 volunteer program, where heinous criminals and sometimes innocents with forged convictions volunteered themselves to become guinea pigs for top secret research conducted via the megacorporation Transtar. But in Luka's case, he was an especially violent and evil individual. On Earth, he would jerry-rig entire explosive devices and commit terrorist acts, and when first moved aboard Talos 1, it was said that he immediately bit the finger of one of the researchers off and swallowed it whole. In fact, in one early experiment, a telepath Typhon implant was put into his brain and showed massive aversion to his mind, considering it pure evil, meaning one of the most wicked alien forces in the entire galaxy couldn't even stand him. But as if it couldn't get any worse during his time on Talos 1, Luka was given extensive neuromod testing and experimentation that over time, just like Morgan, began to cause significant personality drift. At one point, a neuromod of the award-winning chef on board Talos 1 named William Mitchel was given to Luka, and after the operation, Luka awoke not only with impressive culinary skills, but also a deep, deep hatred for the real chef. It's because of this that during the Typhon outbreak on the space station that Luka's first order of business was heading to the cafeteria and slaughtering William Mitchell in cold blood, after which he took his name tag and uniform and assumed the role of the now murdered man. And that leads us to meeting with him in-game, where we can find him in the cafeteria where he claims he is in fact William Mitchell, and that he needs us to find a water valve regulator in order to fix his kitchen. If we do help him out though, he tells us to go grab something in the freezer, after which he swiftly locks the door and tries to kill us. And after we awake barely alive, he calls and taunts us throughout the rest of the game, leading to one of the most memorable side quests in the entire story. Where this tale starts to get absolutely crazy though, is how many insane stories and theories revolve around this man Luka. First of all, in that freezer that we get locked in, many players searched around and noticed lots of weird looking and unidentified meat all over the counters that certainly didn't look like eels, which is the main source of food on Talos 1. Another interesting thing we'll dive into later. And this weird discovery only becomes more horrifying if we actually go to a computer terminal on the station and try to locate William Mitchell's real tracking bracelet. Because if we do, it leads us right into one of these pieces of suspicious and mysterious meat in the freezer, strongly implying that Luka has been killing people aboard Talos 1 and storing their remains in the freezer to eat at a later date. A cannibal amongst our midst. But Luka being a cannibal might be the least of our worries, because during his extensive side quests throughout the game, we learn a lot more about him. First of all, he is in fact a very violent man, and sets up recycler charger booby traps all over the station in order to try and kill us and stop us from finding him. However, even more interestingly, we also get a lot of peculiar dialogue and speeches from him, like this one.
If we're still here when it arrives, it screams so loud. We hear it in our head. It is still far away, but it is coming closer. It will eat your prison, every person on board, and it will still be hungry.
This scene strongly implies that Will, or really Luka, is somehow communicating with Typhon, and seems to have some sort of connection with them and a sense of a looming threat, which for anyone who has played the final act of Prey knows is coming very shortly in the form of the Apex Typhon. Another super unknown example of this is if you actually first meet Luka in the cafeteria already having the water valve regulator, he will remark about how Morgan's mind seems to quote-unquote transcend the future, already knowing that he would need the item for a fix. So it seems clear then that Luka, through all of his torture and neuromod testing, has had his mind connect with the Typhon themselves, hearing their call through the coral, which gives him a greater sense of the impending doom. And after all, this would make a lot of sense, considering in-game, if we take enough Typhon-based neuromods on our playthrough as upgrades, we will start to hear the Typhon on the station speak to us and warn us about impending doom too. By far the most haunting of these Luka revelations though only comes if we allow Luka to survive until the very ending sequences of the game, where if he is alive, he will call us and provide us with this haunting monologue that most players never see.
You feel it, MU? Screaming is louder now. Getting close. I think screams are coming from the future. MU. Screams of people on Earth. Screams an animal makes when caught in a hunter's jaw.
So this proves that Luca does in fact see the future. But if that's the case, could it imply that the Typhon themselves have a special relation to space and time that we don't fully understand yet? And only by completely changing your mind and becoming one with the Typhon yourself can a human understand this. Maybe that's exactly why Alex Yu was doing all the research in the first place. Maybe that's why a human-phantom hybrid is so important for the future of humanity. But that's a theory I'll save for later on this list, because the more interesting theories for now still revolve around our man, Luca. First of all, is Luca really the bad man we've been led to believe? After all, with all of this neuromod testing and personality drift, it's hard to say whether or not Luca was actually bad, or if it was just what the scientists on Talos 1 said, in order to clear their conscience that they had created a human born of pure evil. Maybe those original stories are actually just the scientists coping with the fact that they've made a monster. Next up, is Luca actually another example of the meta-narrative in Prey? For those of you who don't know, if you do the escape shuttle ending, the version of the looking glass simulation that comes up in the cutscene is actually a much lower version than the true ending, implying that the simulation we are going through is just one of many tests that Alex is putting Typhon through with Morgan neuromods, as we learn at the end of the base game. Maybe this Luca we meet in-game is nothing more than a fabrication put into the simulation by Alex that is meant to test us and our new humanity as an alien. But potentially the more interesting theory is that Luca is actually a manifestation of our Typhon mind in the simulation itself. What if the things we hear Luca say aren't actually him at all, but instead our real mind in the real world, considering we are an alien in a simulation of a human mind? When we hear Luca talk about this future Armageddon and the evil deeds he has done, maybe it's actually our Typhon mind trying to break through the simulation and alert us to something strange going on. This could even imply that the reason the cook runs away and tries to stop us is that he's afraid of us because he sees us as an alien. And a quest that's about chasing a man down who tried to kill you is actually truly a quest about a man running for his life from a bloodthirsty monster that eventually chases him down to an escape pod and murders him. And even more crazy, this idea that Luca may in fact not be such a bad man, and that it's all in our head for whatever reason, may actually be answered in one of the cut transcribes from the game, which some in the community were able to data mine in the hidden game files, and would have been the final transcribe you find on Luca's dead body in the escape pod. This is for MU. So you don't forget. TranStar asks for volunteers for experiments in space. Promises to let us go from prison if we come to this one. A life sentence, over in a day. Like all TranStar deals, it's false. They take us up in shuttle, like cattle. Take us to your prison, feed us, run tests. But something is wrong, I think. They put us back on shuttle, say the tests are over, we are free. They drug us, herd us like cattle. And then they bring us back here. You bring us back here, and kill us one by one. Feed us to your beasts while you watch and take notes. I see it. There, MU, on your uniform. You watch as you open my cage. Let me see the beasts you keep here. It is not evil, I think. It is an animal. It is hungry. But the hunger, it is everywhere. It is hungry for thought. It enters my brain, leaves hunger there, like an egg. It grows, cracks. It's hunger inside of me. It's almost all I can think about. But it does not eat me. Maybe it does not like how I think, or sees my brain is wrong, or maybe you decide to stop when I scream. I go back to my cell, and doctors come with needles and tests and questions. I bite their fingers, swallow them whole, and they beat me, take me to security. Alarms, guards try and move me, and I kill them, but their uniforms do not fit. I am still hungry. Go find crew to blend in. Find the kitchen. Find an idiot man who lets me in. And I look at him. His suit size fits me. I kill him, and now I am him. I do this again and again. Help people come to the kitchen, see what they have, kill them. They are just TranStar. It's just yet another amazing example of how well constructed the narrative and meta-narrative of Prey is, and just how many connections you can start to make when looking deeper into this story. I can't stress enough how underrated everything about this game is, and how much more love it truly deserves.